Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Abigail, and I have special needs. I was born with a diaphragmatic hernia, also known as a hole in my diaphragm, and basically several of my insides in the wrong spot, and a hernia, and a bunch of different things wrong when I was born. And I wanted to share a little bit of my story with y'all, as well as share some photos from my baby book. So starting off, I'm doing this from memory, but basically, um, I'm the second born child in my family. I have a older brother that's 2 years older than me, and then I have a little brother. My older brother isn't really in my videos. My little brother, his name is Daniel. He's 11. If you're a subscriber on my channel, you probably have seen him because he loves being on camera. But at the time I was born, it was just me and my older brother. And my mom had went for her scan. Just, the normal scan that they do, every few months when you're pregnant. And we wasn't really expecting anything to be wrong. If I remember right, it was the scan that was supposed to show what gender I was going to be. And we found out that I was a girl, which we were like, that's great because, we had my older brother, and then, and then we found out I was a girl, and so we were like, that's great, like, we can do the older brother, younger sister type situation, and, we were so excited. However, I think it was at the same scan that we found out that I was going to be a girl, turns out that something was wrong. Came back wrong, or not quite right, but we wasn't really sure what it was, because at that specific time, my birth defect wasn't very common. I mean, it's still considered pretty rare, but back in 2001 when I was born, which, was 24 years ago, it was even less common then. And so we were kind of like told that, okay, something's wrong with your baby, but we don't know what's going on. We probably won't know until she's born. So, when I was born, we found out that several of my insides were in the wrong spot. I also had a hernia, and just a lot of things were wrong. And they told my parents that I was going to need emergency surgery to fix my insides, and that the survival rate was not very good. As a matter of fact, they told my parents, you might as well get an abortion, because, I mean, if she does survive, she's going to be, very delayed. She's probably going to need a lot of help with things. Basically, it was, the way I understood it, is that one of the doctors wanted me to basically be aborted, but they were like, if she does somehow survive by some miracle, she's going to have a lot of delays, and they were just, really negative about it. And so my parents were like, you know what? She's going to have the surgery that's called, the repair surgery, where they put your insides back in the right spot. And so I got my insides put back in the right spot. I got my hernia fixed. And all this was when I think I was a couple days old when all this happened. And my parents were like, if she survives, we want to keep her. And I don't think it was all the doctors were negative about it. I think it was this one specific doctor that was negative about it. They were like really pushing the abortion type situation. And anyways, I come out of surgery and I have a lot of things attached to me. I was very sick as a baby. The first, I think, couple months of life I spent in the hospital. It was actually, I spent at least 1 month in the hospital because my baby book says October 13th, 2001. I was 6 weeks old and it was my first Sunday at home, so I spent about a month in the hospital after surgery. So this is me in the hospital, or not in the hospital, right after I got home from the hospital. The bottom picture is, I think, in the hospital. The top picture is at home. So go, and then this one is when I got home. Sorry for the glare. So anyways, they were like very negative about it. Like, she's gonna have a lot of delays, and if she somehow does survive, it's gonna be by some miracle. Well, I did survive, and it was a really scary time because when I did get home, I was on, I think it was a apnea monitor, a feeding tube. Those are the main things I could think of. There might have been more, but that's the main two things I could think of. And at this time, my older brother was only 2 years old. And I don't know how my mom did it, but she brought me as a baby and my 2-year-old brother to the store like if it was like no big deal. Like, I really don't know how she did it. So let me go back to how we knew that I was alive, like breathing. They told my parents that whenever my mom was going to have me, that I was very likely not going to be breathing because it's a very serious birth defect. And I think, if I remember right, my insides were like blocking my like airway on the like the x-ray, and so they were like, basically she's probably not going to survive after birth. My mom gave birth to me and I cried, and that's how we knew I was alive, was I cried. This is a picture of me in the hospital. That was September 20th, 2001. Says, "You were such a miracle. We cherished your cry at birth." My cry was a big deal. So let's go to the next page. So whenever I was first born, my parents were not allowed to hold me because they were afraid, since I was so sick, that it would stress out my body. And so I did not get to be held until I was 3 weeks old. And this is the first time my mom held me at 3 weeks old. And then this talks about like the doctors, which I'm not going to share that for personal reasons. But I do want to share my growth chart, because I've always been a really small person. So I was born at 7 pounds and 6 ounces. At 2.5 years old, I was 25 pounds. At 5 years old, I was 32 pounds. And at 9.5 years old, I was 61 pounds. I'm kind of going through my baby book, so I don't share like any like personal information. I think that this is really pretty. They put my name on here. My parents put my name on here. Let's see here. This, okay, I can share this picture. So when before I was born, I did not have a baby shower because we were told by the doctors that I was very likely not going to survive, and my parents obviously didn't want a bunch of baby stuff if I wasn't supposed to survive, or they said that I wasn't supposed to survive. So, after I was born and was well enough to come home, our church threw us a baby shower. So this is my mom, I'm the baby, and then my dad, and then my older brother Josiah when he was like 2. So sorry it's a little bit blurry, but yeah. And then here's some more pictures of me in the hospital here. And so basically, we knew that I was breathing because I cried at birth. And so at that point, they were like, okay, she's breathing. Let's get her into surgery. So I think I was like 2 or 3 days old when I had my repair surgery. And people born with CDH can have a lot of different kinds of issues. But it's kind of, I guess you could say, like a spectrum in a way, because you can have CDH that's not as extreme and not have delays, or you can have extreme CDH and have like developmental delays. So a few ways that it affects me is I do have developmental delays. The health issues that I have are from my birth defect, even though after my repair surgery as a baby, like as far as like my childhood, I had a pretty like normal childhood. I mean, I never like had been able to eat very much because I'm a really small person, but other than that, I had like a pretty normalish childhood. And then when I turned 19 is whenever my health issues started happening. I went in to have my hernia repaired again or fixed, and we went with the general surgeon instead of a specialist, and he had a nerve caused gastroparesis, which is where my stomach is partially paralyzed. And I was on a special diet for a couple of years, and anyways, long story short, I started having health issues again after that, like different health issues, and we found out I had a hernia again, and they couldn't really fix it this time. So now I am back on a feeding tube. I am on constant feeds. I do have some vision issues. Like I said, I do have some developmental delays. I do have mild scoliosis. I have gastroparesis, but that wasn't from my birth defect. That was from my previous surgery that didn't go right. And I have like some, learning difficulties and things like that. But I'm very, very thankful to be alive and have the life that I have. And I'm very thankful for the options that I do have to get the calories that I need, even if that is through a feeding tube. I appreciate you all watching my story. My story goes like way longer than that. It could probably be like a documentary of my story, but that's kind of like the basics of it, of kind of the things that I touch on whenever what I really think about when I talk about my story. And being able to share my life on here with all of y'all really means a lot to me. And y'all are like really encouraging and have really helped me to press forward in my health journey. So I really appreciate the support. And I will see y'all next time. Thanks for watching my story. Bye, everyone.